Cycling sponsorship is a hot topic, with BMC announcing their merger with CCC Sprandi Polkowice, making it more relevant than ever. The peloton's seen countless teams come and go through the years as ambitious companies and billionaire backers try to make their way in the sport. To understand how this whole process works, inCycle caught up with two veterans of the sport who finally found relative stability.
You're operating like a startup, a startup company every year, meaning you're going after your startup dollars, you're going after your initial investment dollars, and then you're spending those dollars, and then you're doing it again. And you're never actually getting to the point where those investment dollars are used to create a sustainable business model. Like that never happens. So the peculiarity is that you're in startup mode every single year. If we're looking for sustainability of teams so that teams are stable from year to year to year and are not running into financial difficulties with a change of sponsor or a loss of sponsor, one of the greatest things you can do is give franchise rights to the team, meaning that they're a permanent part of the World Tour, a permanent part of the Tour de France. So an investor could step in and say, yes, I'd like to buy a large portion of this team because I think someday it will be worth something more because you have this permanent right to be racing the Tour de France, and that's actually worth something. When you combine financial fairness and franchise rights, you actually create a more competitive environment where people are trying to create value for investors and value for the fans. But politically, it's not very popular to talk about that, so.
Everybody agrees, everybody, sponsors, teams, riders, that the economic model is not right. If you bring things in a pot, you grow it, and if you then share it, everybody gets their fair share. Unfortunately, that's not the case. But Sunweb knows it's not the case. For 100 years it's already not the case in cycling. So they know what the reality is. And again, let's do where we have influence. We have a revolutionary agreement with the tour operator Sunweb, because it's an agreement for indefinite time. And it's not easy to exit, and for sure not on the long term. So we have a contract for indefinite time with a clear objective to build something over the next 10, 20 years. And that means we can make long-term investments, which help us to really become a better team. With the money being invested, we not only have to think long-term. So we can do what is right, and it means half of the people on this planet who ride a bike, which is 1 out of 3 people on this planet ride regularly a bike for whatever purpose, but half is women. So if you invest in the elite sport, in the top of the top, it would be good to not only do men, but also do women. That's one example. Such things will only be paid back maybe in 10 years' time. It will be paid back. We will be much more effective, we will be much more innovative, but it will take time before you really get the revenues, the sporting revenues from it.
Most teams are solely identified by their sponsor. If Sky decides to not sponsor Team Sky, what is it? If Movistar decides to not sponsor that team, like, what is the organization behind it? Nobody really knows. We've been successful at developing a brand for the team that is separate from any sponsor. Argyle has nothing to do with any sponsor. Slipstream has nothing to do with any sponsor. Ride Argyle has nothing to do with any sponsor. Those were created as the team's identity, the team's brand, the team's equity, the team's value. And luckily we were able to leverage that into a very successful campaign to keep the team alive. EF Education First, when they came in, that was a very key point for them, that they wanted to own the Ride Argyle and the Argyle brand, and they do now. But we created that value. We created that value proposition, and it's something that every team in cycling should be doing, because we should not be looking at solely sponsorships to develop our identity. I'm not working for, you know, a Russian billionaire like Oleg. I'm working for a company that has 46,000 employees worldwide. So it's a very different experience. But in a way, like, they are still asking of me the same thing, which is to be entrepreneurial in trying to figure out how to get the team to perform the best, how to create the most value possible for the EF Education First brand, and for the Slipstream brand, and for the Argyle brand, because they own all three. And so, in essence, I'm sort of still an entrepreneur, but maybe without as much, without a cliff that I can fall off of at any point in time, sitting right next to me. Not as much downside risk.